Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're acting as architects of the English language by mastering its absolute fundamental building blocks. If you've ever felt like English rules are a bit of a maze, you are in exactly the right place. We are going to look at the very foundation of how we communicate, breaking it down into simple, visual pieces that will help you build stronger sentences and express your ideas with total clarity.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the foundations of grammar, move on to mastering capital letters, cover common and proper nouns, singular nouns and articles, and finally, wrap up with those tricky plural rules. Let's get into it.
Part 1. The Foundations of Grammar.
So, think about this for a second. Who do you think was the very first person to systematically divide a sentence into a subject and a verb? You might guess it was some strict English teacher a few centuries ago, right? Well, it actually goes way, way further back than that.
We're talking about Plato. The famed ancient Greek philosopher laid these exact foundations roughly 2,400 years ago. Ever since then, educated people have been studying these structures to really sharpen their speaking and writing. Why? Because being able to speak and write well is literally the hallmark of effective communication. Understanding these ancient roots helps us perfect our own ability to connect with others today.
And you know, grammar really doesn't have to be intimidating. Take this classic children's rhyme. Every name is called a noun, as field and fountain, street and town. It's such a playful, memorable way to categorize parts of speech, and it helps the whole system just click right into place in our minds.
Moving on to Part 2, Mastering Capital Letters.
Okay, so uppercase letters. They aren't just random. They are strictly used to spotlight the start of a thought, the pronoun I, and specific names, places, or dates. When you drop a capital at the start of a sentence, you're basically telling your reader, hey, a brand new idea is starting right here. They immediately draw the I and organize the information.
Looking at these rules in action, you can really see how capitals act as signposts. Notice the difference between just any dog barking and specific names like Alice or Snow White, or how we capitalize places like the Bronx Zoo and dates like New Year's Day or Monday. Those capitals immediately signal to your brain that you're dealing with a specific, unique thing, not just a general concept.
All right, Part 3, Common and Proper Nouns.
So, common nouns are essentially the general labels we use for people, animals, places, or things. Take an artist painting a canvas, for example. The word artist is a broad category, right? It's not one specific named individual. The exact same goes for a fairy waving a magic wand. Whether we're talking about an astronaut, a clown, a bird, or a fairy, if it describes a general category of a person, place, or thing, it is a common noun.
But watch what happens when we compare them side by side. On the left, we've got general terms: girl, country, month, river. But the second a common noun gets a specific identity, like Egypt or the Yellow River, bam! It upgrades to a proper noun and earns that capital letter we just talked about.
Up next, Part 4, Singular Nouns and Articles.
Now, the general rule of thumb here is honestly kind of musical. We use a before consonant sounds like a basket or a car, and we use an before vowel sounds, a, e, I, o, u, like an X or an egg. It's all about making speech flow smoothly. Seriously, try saying a egg out loud right now. It feels completely clunky, right? It just stops your breath. The an smooths the whole thing out.
But of course, grammar absolutely loves a pattern interruption. The trick here is that words like uniform or university take an A. Why? Because of how they sound, not how they're spelled. Even though they start with the vowel U, they sound exactly like they start with a Y, like U. Because of that hidden consonant sound, we say a uniform.
And it works in reverse, too. If the H is totally silent, like in the word hour, we actually break the consonant rule and use an instead. Since we don't pronounce that H, the word essentially starts with an O vowel sound to our ears. So it's an hour. It all just comes down to how the word rolls off the tongue.
And finally, Part 5, the tricky plural rules.
All right, for most words, you just slap an S on the end, like turning bird into birds. Easy enough. But if the word ends in a hissing sound, like ch, sh, s, ss, or x, you have to add es to create a whole new syllable. I mean, think about it. If you try to just add an s to the word bus, it would just be one long, awkward hiss. So bus becomes buses, and box becomes boxes, just to make them actually pronounceable.
Now, the letter Y is famously tricky. Sometimes it forces you to drop the Y entirely, change it to an I and add ES, like turning baby into babies or fairy into fairies. But then other times, like with monkeys or toys, you just add a simple S.
Then there's the dramatic shift that words ending in F or FE take. You usually transform the F into a V before pluralizing, so a leaf becomes leaves and a thief becomes thieves. But because English loves its exceptions, words like chef, roof, and giraffe stubbornly refuse to follow suit. They just take a regular S.
And then we have the absolute rule breakers. These irregular nouns change their entire spelling instead of just adding a letter at the end. A child becomes children. A man becomes men. Mouse shifts entirely to mice, and tooth goes to teeth. For these historical rebels of the English language, you really just have to memorize them.
And lastly, we have invisible plurals. Some nouns, especially animals like sheep, deer, and bison, stay exactly the same whether you're looking at one of them or 100 of them. It's this fascinating little quirk where the context of your sentence is literally the only way someone knows if you're talking about one lone sheep or an entire flock.
So, having mastered these ancient and powerful building blocks, what kind of sentences, stories, and ideas are you going to build next? Grammar isn't just some set of rigid textbook rules. It is the 2,400-year-old foundational blueprint of human connection. So take these tools, apply them to your own writing and speaking, and keep building incredible things. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.